The LSU wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. would pair well with DJ Moore with the Chicago Bears. He should be on their draft radar. We're going to tell you why and so much more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and senior draft analyst. And guys, I got to kick this thing over to my partner in crime, my brother, Mr. LSU 2019 LSU national champion with them Bengal Tigers, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Tigers, man, and the other side of this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, where we talk college football, we talk NFL football. But like we always say, man, it all starts with the NFL Draft, and that's why you are tapped in with us, man. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us every single day. This is about to be an action-packed show, so go ahead and like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. But DP, today's show, man, we're talking draft radar. We talked about Brian Thomas, man. Malik Neighbors making a lot of noise, but Brian Thomas is showing that he has to elevate his draft stock. We're going to get into that conversation, have a stock up, stock down conversation, and then we're going to have the appearances from Coach K, Coach DP. But DP, before we get this started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Keith, your draft radar revolves around Chi-Town, those Chicago Bears, and you have LSU wide receiver 2, Brian Thomas Jr. going over to the Chicago Bears to pair with DJ Moore. What made this such a good fit to you?
DP, because I look at this wide receiver core, right? And it's reality versus perception in the situation of how deep this wide receiver core, but then also exactly what is it, right? Because you look at DJ Moore, obviously they made the trade for DJ Moore big time. We know that DJ Moore has all pro potential, right? If he can get the football, there are games where he can dominate. But then you look at the rest of this wide receiver core, Darnell Mooney, undersized wide receiver, right? Tyler Scott, undersized wide receivers. Velus Jones, vertical threat, older guy. When they draft him, he was an older guy, right? They're still trying to figure it out. Equinemius St. Brown, still trying to figure it out. So I'm looking at it like this, DP, that, yeah, we can say that this is a solid wide receiver core, but if you draft Brian Thomas, he immediately becomes your wide receiver 2. And you think about the complementary factor of both of those guys being on the field. And we always talk about this, DP, that you have to have guys that complement each other at the wide receiver position, right? And DJ Moore is kind of your do-it-all guy. Like, he can pretty much do it all. But then now you add Brian Thomas, and while the Chicago Bears, they try to use Tyler Scott and Darnell Mooney as their big play guys, they're still smaller in stature guys. Now you get a Brian Thomas who Justin Fields, if he's the quarterback next year, right? Or Caleb Williams or Drake May, we just throw out the whole gamut, right?
Right.
Either one of those 3 quarterbacks, DP, they can all have a big body vertical threat that they can throw the football to. But then also the part that I like about Brian Thomas's game is that he goes in high points to football, right? He's a big wide receiver that knows, hey, I'm going to go up and get it. And that's a special part of what can be a good offense, especially in the red zone, right? Is that, hey, this is a slot fade, this is a jump ball, right? But also just being able to throw the ball down the field. And let's see if it's going to, those jump balls, right? It should lean in our way in the sense of the fact of that a bad outcome should only be 10 to 15%, meaning an interception, right? That your 2 highest percentages should be Brian Thomas catching the football, or it should be an incompletion, and then 10% of it should be an interception. So I like the chances, and then I like just drafting Brian Thomas. If you can get him in potentially the top of the second round or something like that, or the middle of the second round, if you're the Chicago Bears, then you go ahead and draft that guy, and then now he comes in, he could be your wide receiver too.
No, and I like the fit, like you said, DJ Moore's wide receiver 1, right? Cole Kmet's it's been more consistent this year, game to game, and showcasing that he can make plays, and he's kind of taking that step. But the wide receiver 2 position is still a problem for this team. And whether it's Justin Fields, Drake May, or Caleb Williams, adding another piece, right? Fixing the offensive line some more with those 2 first-round draft picks, and then adding a Brian Thomas, more likely in the second round. I think that's a really good move. And that kind of points that arrow, right? We talk about stock up, stock down next segment. The stock could be up for the Chicago Bears offense going into 2024 with an addition like Brian Thomas Jr. Keith, for me, the draft radar, I thought about Audric Estime, right? The Notre Dame running back, power, stocky, short, bowling ball type of frame. Guy against Stanford this past weekend, Keith, 25 carries, 238 rush yards, 4 total touchdowns. This guy is a really, he's a good football player, man. Now, is he a first round, maybe second round pick? Nah, I think third, fourth round would be a good spot for him. And you think about these teams that run up the middle, right? Power running teams. And for me, it's like, I think back to, the Baltimore Ravens. You think about the New England Patriots. You think about teams that really want to run the ball. And when I looked at Audric Estime, I actually went with a different team. I went to the Buffalo Bills, Keith. I went to the Bills. And I thought about, okay, if I can get him third, fourth round, late day 2, early day 3, I think you add this bowling ball frame, a guy that is strong. He's got good speed to open field. He's got good run tempo and patience. You pair him up with James Cook, I think now you feel even more confident. Because this is what I want to get to, Keith. Guys, I want to get to a point where we're not running Josh Allen as the goal line back. Can we get to that? Can we protect our quarterback? We talk about the quarterback being the most important piece in sports, but then we take our quarterback and use him as a battering ram, right, in the red zone. It can't be more more contradictory than that. You're gonna open your star quarterback, your elite QB, to those hits. And I think taking Audric Estime, and you think about what we've seen with the Ray Rices, the J.K. Dobbins, the Monty Ball, like those guys that weren't 6'2", 6'3". They didn't look like Derrick Henry, but they were good short yards backs, good backs in the power scheme that you can get them running downhill. You think putting them in the backfield with Josh Allen, right, where you kind of show that QB zone read, backside end's got to keep his eyes on Josh Allen. Don't let him work around the edge. And that takes one guy out of the equation. It just allow him to get vertical, allow him to get downhill where Audric Estime is at his best. And that phrase, Keith, is very cliche. He gets stronger as the game goes on. And I just feel like they need to – we talk about it all the time with Buffalo. They need to add more physicality. They need to be stronger, be more physical. I think Audric Estime adds that to this offense.
Yeah, no, I think that's good, and you can see that the Buffalo Bills, they've been looking for that, right? Like, because they I feel like they try to go the polar opposite, right? With a lot of, I don't even want to call them gadget backs, right? But guys that kind of like playing space with drafting James Cook, and then they had a couple. I can't even remember all of their running backs, right? But they had a couple running backs that they signed via free agency, but they were all the kind of like smaller in stature guys. But then now they transitioned to what I think Latavius Murray is in the backfield, right? Then they had the
Leonard Fournette. I think they signed off.
Yeah, signed Leonard Fournette, the Latavius Murray. So they're trying to figure it out with placing minimal resources into the running back room, I guess you can kind of say. Like a lot of these veterans, almost like what the Patriots used to do with their sign. Like, remember when they signed LeGarrette Blount and he just caught fire for them? It seems like it's trying to do the same type of thing. But I like drafting Audric Estime, like you said, if you could get him in the middle rounds, because we've seen what James Cook is, right? And he's good at what he does. But what he does is not necessarily everything that they need, right, from a running back position. So I like the drafting of Audric Estime.
And I think Joe Brady, could do some things with both of these backs, right? You know what I'm saying? And he's used to having a kind of squatty back of that build in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH, back in y'all time with LSU.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And not only that, right, but we ran multiple backs. That was Ty Davis Price, right? Remember, he was a true freshman. Nice. We had Chris Curry step in, right? So we also ran multiple backs during that year also. So I could definitely see that being the thing. But DP, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep it flowing, man. We are on to the stock up, stock down segment. DP, we just finished talking about running backs. I'm about to unload more running backs that I'm higher on. I'm like, you know what? Let's just go in on it. Let's
Crazy
go
enough,
in
me
on
too, Keith.
So coming up next, man, stock up, stock down.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board, guys. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Okay? Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Guys, LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So what do you need to do? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL, right? That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. For free now. No charge, for free. Terms and conditions apply. This time of year, guys, can be a lot. And it's natural to feel some sadness and anxiety about it because, you got the holidays. And whether your holidays as a child or in the recent history has been good or bad, it can really stress you out, okay? So understand something. Adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings that you're experiencing right now today. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded and to give you the tools to manage everything that's going on in your life. I know for me, the holidays was big, right? My mom did everything she could and everything. My family did everything that they could to provide the best possible holidays for me and my brothers. But it wasn't easy, guys. So I had to take on that as a dad myself. If you think about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and is designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your schedule. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. Family, you know the stock market always opens up Monday morning here on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Keith, we kind of segued it at the end of segment one. We will talk more running backs. And Keith, this is a guy that I have to say I'm happy to see the arrow point upward for him, right? The senior running back that I actually had as a stock down guy earlier this season, Kendall Milton, listed at 6'1", 220. I'm kind of read off his last 4 games. His game in the month of November, right? Against Missouri, he started off kind of modest, 9 for 44, about 5 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown. Against Ole Miss, 9 for 127, 14 yards per, 2 touchdowns. Against Tennessee, just kind of steady Eddie, 14, 66, 4.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. And then this past weekend against Georgia Tech in a very close game that they won by 1 score. You talk about beating your team, beating your opponent into submission. 18 carries, 156 yards, 8.7 yards per, 2 rushing touchdowns. So for me, Kendall Milton's stock is up, Keith. This young man is running the way I expected him to run from the start of this season, being healthy, big, physical, NFL frame, downhill type of runner. He's got a good, strong, explosive burst. You know what I mean? When he hits through the first layer of the defense, the first level, but he's a kind of a high upright runner. You think about the Eric Dickersons and things like that. He's kind of high upright. Almost, I don't think he's not as big as Derrick Henry, but he almost looks like kind of a smaller version of Derrick Henry in terms of his running style and the physicality. He's really physical, especially once he gets downhill, but he has open field speed. I'm seeing him really like defenses are a little right now towards the end of this regular season for college football. Defenses are a little afraid to let him get past the first layer of their defensive front, man. He's been playing good football. He's been steady. 2 big games in the last 4, and he's just showcasing the more you feed me the ball, the more I can help this offense. And I love that for him, and I love that for his draft stock. So I think his stock is up, especially in the draft class for running backs, where injuries have taken a lot of the shine and glimmer from a lot of these guys, right? Raheem Sanders has been hurt all season. I heard some rumors that he might be going back. I think he has a year of eligibility left. He might be heading back. So you think about just Travion Henderson, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards is more than likely going back 1 more year, right? I think Kendall Milton could appeal to some of these teams like the Buffalo Bills, if you don't want to take a guy in the 3rd, 4th round, you might can get him in the 5th, 4th to 5th, and then you have yourself a potential quality starter.
Yeah, no, and listen, I recruited Kendall Milton out of high school. He came down for visits. He's from the California area, right? Came down for multiple visits. Not just me, but the staff, right? LSU, we recruited him and had conversations. And so I'm extremely familiar with Kendall Milton's game. And I'll be honest with you, DP, this was one of the better running backs from a height, weight, speed, elusiveness. Like he has the total package to me. It just hasn't played out in his career at Georgia, right? And part of that is just the depth chart at Georgia, and then part of it was injuries. But I'm glad that he's starting to break out now, because this is a guy I just mentioned his name in the last segment, but you talk about like a Ty Davis Price that went in the 3rd round. I thought Kendall Milton had all of the same skill sets, if not more, than what a Ty Davis Price did, right? We talk about contact balance and everything else coming out of high school, because those guys, I think they were either one grade apart, or they were in the same exact recruiting class. So I remember watching both of those guys during high school years. But DP, I'm gonna get into Auburn running back Jarquez Hunter, man. Toted the rock versus Alabama, but he was also a guy, DP, that I talked about a couple weeks ago. I don't remember if I talked about him on the show. I know I tweeted about him, and I was looking at him like, okay, he was another guy that when I was at LSU, I believe we played him. No, you know what? We didn't. He didn't. He came in a year after, but I remember watching him early on, and I was like, man, this dude is talented, right? And he started the season off really slow, DP. I'm talking about the first first 5 games. His biggest game was 59 yards against Georgia, right? Then he got hot, right? And they started actually giving him the football, where he went 15 carries for 91 yards, 17 carries for 144 yards, 19 carries for 183 yards, 16 carries for 109 yards, all in SEC play. That's LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Arkansas. Then they dropped the ball against New Mexico State. I had no idea what's going on. 8 carries for 27 yards. They only scored 10 points against New Mexico State. But this past Saturday, DP, we seen him against Bama, and you see that this guy is just he's difficult to tackle, man. He's a squattier build. He's 5'9" probably strong as all outdoors, big thighs, right? Contact balance, vision, explosiveness, physical. And I think about those running backs that fall to the 5th round, and then they become key contributors for offenses, and everybody's like, well, where did this guy come from? And I see that with Jarquez Hunter. I really like what he can do, what he can bring. Perfect team, right? And talking about matchups, Dallas Cowboys, right? Because he's better in between the tackles than what a Tony Pollard is, and you allow Tony Pollard to kind of be that stretch guy, kind of let him do what he does best, right? But he will be a good, almost kind of complementary piece to what Tony Pollard does as a running back.
And Keith, I love that, man, because like this running back class is taking a lot of heat. Like we talked about in the first segment, injuries have taken a lot of the shine from these guys, right? A lot of the glitz and glamour, where we were like, remember my take in the summer was like, this class is better than last year's class, but that's when all the guys were healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like Raheem Sanders was healthy, Trey, everybody was healthy. Then we get to the season, the guys got banged up, and it just looked like, man, like when those guys weren't playing, like, okay, we're start looking at next year's Ollie Gordon and all these other running backs. Like, yeah, next year's class is loaded. I'm not even gonna flex to you. I'm not gonna lie, but I think this class is still not salvageable. This class is better than what people believe. It's just guys got to stay healthy. But seeing a Kendall Milton take that step forward, seeing Jarquez Hunter take that step forward, if these guys were to declare for the draft, right, they're going to be a middle round pick. But then we look at it rookie year, sophomore year in the NFL, and we're like, you know what, man, that 2024 NFL running back class was pretty good. It's like, like you got to kind of just dive into the tape and see what these guys offer. Don't box score scout. Understand some of these guys are banged up, but I like that we kind of highlighted 2 under the radar running backs that stocks are going up because they're starting to get the football more.
Yeah, and the last guy, DP, I want to quickly discuss it be Michigan running back Blake Corum, right? Obviously, we're not introducing a new name. This is not an under-the-radar guy, but I think this is a guy that's going to be consistently questioned, right? Like, is he fast enough? Is he, this? Is he that? He's short, just everything. He's going to be questioned, but you just see time and time again, like, the guy's just a flat-out football player, right? And I tweeted about it Saturday. I'm like, he just can play football. So it's like, what's your floor from your, like, to me, in my opinion, my floor is the 4th round, right? And then I just think that I know exactly what I'm going to get. And when you're talking about drafting in the scouting process, sometimes that's just the best thing, right? Like sometimes it's not how much upside does this guy, right? Because he can have a whole lot of upside, but he can also have a whole lot of downside. I just feel like barring any type of crazy injury from Blake Corum, I know exactly what I'm going to get. And that's a guy that I could turn around, hand a rock off to, and he's going to gas your defense for 15, 20 yards, 15, 20 yards, 15, 20 yards. And then we're going to look up and he's going to have 100 yards rushing. And then we're going to move forward and say, hey, that was a good productive rushing game.
I like that, Keith. I like that a whole lot. And he's the best way to put it. He's just a steady Eddie. You know, like you said, you know what you're going to get. And a lot of times, especially in the middle rounds, Keith, if you can draft a guy that you know what to expect, he's going to meet the expectations, you love that.
Yep, I agree 100%. DP, meet the expectations. Man, we about to jump into Coach K, Coach DP, and we have to meet some expectations, hand out some game balls for guys that met the expectation, DP, Saturday night. So stay tuned because we may choose the same guy. We may choose the same guy. So stay tuned. Coming up next, man, is the game ball.
Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft has been brought to you by Prize Picks. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Guys, with basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports and or leagues. For example, Steph Curry plus Kyle Pitts for a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. Do you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest and best names in the Prize Pick community each and every week. This week on Prize Picks, I am taking Damian Lillard for over 20 points this week on Prize Picks, guys, scoring 20 points on Prize Picks. Guys, all you have to do is very simple. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Coach DP and Coach K. Keith, we almost picked the same guy for game ball. We almost handed out the same game ball. But for me, Keith, this is just a running back episode for me, baby. It's just a running back episode, Keith. And I got to go to the young man. He's not eligible until next year. We mentioned Derrick Henry earlier. He's got a lot of Derrick Henry comparisons. So if you're watching on YouTube, you see Ollie Gordon, 34 rushes, 166 rush yards, and 5 total touchdowns. This young man is just a hoss. Like, it's so hard to tackle him and bring him down, listed at 6'1", almost 215 pounds. This season, 245 carries, 15, almost 1,600 yards rushing, 20 rushing touchdowns, and he would be a shoe-in. And I think he still should be considered to be in New York for the Heisman, only if it wasn't for their UCF game where they just couldn't get things going. But this young man has multiple 100-yard games. I think he went with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He went 6 to 7 straight games this year with 100-plus yards rushing. This is a talented player. And in a game yesterday against BYU, where it was 40-34, went to double overtime, he was one of the key cogs and one of the main reasons why this team was able to not upset, but to secure their spot in the Big 12 championship game for this weekend against Texas, which we will highlight and preview later on in the week. Man, Ollie Gordon II, this young man deserves the game ball from me.
DP, I like that because that's a name pull, right? And we've been getting in our bag with the running backs this episode, man. He's a guy that I have to check out, man. Ollie Gordon, I've heard about him, right? But I haven't actually dove into the film on his side. And he's a 2025. You say he's a 2025 draft prospect? Yeah, we talking about 2025. That draft class is gonna be crazy when it comes to running backs. Like that can be 10, 15 running backs in the top 100 potentially, right? Just how talented it is. But DP, I'm gonna go with this. I'm going to go with the Iron Bowl miracle, the Milroe miracle, whatever you want to call it. DP.
I like that. Let we put it on the shirt, Keith.
The Milroe miracle. And I might have to trademark that.
You should.
I wonder if Bam already came out with it, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna drop
do it
that.
Before they
haven't did it. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do it before them, right? I gotta beat them to the punch, DP. But man, I'm gonna go with Jalen Milroe, man, a guy that went 259 yards passing, 107 yards rushing, and 2 total touchdowns. But what did he have, DP? the game-winning touchdown, right? The walk-off, right? You rarely see it. It was, 4th and 31, right? The Iron Bowl, the entire season on the line. You already have one loss. You lose again, it doesn't even matter if you beat Georgia in the SEC championship. You ain't going to the playoffs, DP. You will not see the playoffs. You're playing against an Auburn team that I just talked about when I talked about Jarquez Hunter, that lost 31-10 to New Mexico State. And you are down. You have to make a play. He made a play, threw it to the back with the back corner pylon in the end zone for the touchdown. I believe Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver, caught the football. It was just a big time play. And he talked about this. He said, there's a clip going around now where he's talking about give me the Heisman, right? I'm gonna say, Jalen, look, I'm gonna give you the game ball, baby. Heisman, we'll talk about the Heisman next year. I guarantee you're playing at Bama, you're playing good football now. You're probably gonna be top 5 in the favorites, right? But just hold on to that thing one more year. I'm gonna give you the game ball this year from Coach K, which could be as good as a Heisman, right? It could be as good as a Heisman from time to time. But I wanted to get a game ball to Jalen Milroe.
Nah, you go. You know, listen. Next week, this past week, this next weekend, this coming weekend, you knock off Georgia and you ball out like this. You might have a case for the Heisman in my case. Because that was, Keith. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was a Heisman moment, man. Like you had you got down right. You got, some people say, well, they was gifted the muff punt, and you had 2 self-inflicted wounds.
That was the crazy part, DP. When you watch that game, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is going on? Because even when they punt the ball to Auburn, it was like the one thing Auburn can't do is fumble the punt, right? That's what you're thinking in your mind. You like, just catch the punt and y'all could potentially win the game, because I think it was only like 3-4 minutes left. So Bama wasn't just stopping them. It was like Auburn was, even when it was getting drives, it wasn't 3 and outs, right? It was 1 or 2 first downs. And then they'll eventually force 3 downs and force them to punt on 4th down. So you like, Auburn could potentially win this game. Auburn fumbles the punt, DP. Then you're like, what is going on? Then Alabama, they return the favor, right, by getting all the way down to the 5-yard line.
Bad snap.
And then going backwards. I was like, this is crazy.
You got a bad snap. Then Jalen Milroe gets sacked, right? So it's like, oh my God, like this is terrible.
Yeah. Then it was the next play, right, where he passed the line of scrimmage when it was like, hey, if it's 4th and 30, let's just, you could potentially just pick up 15 yards and make it a 4th and 15. You know what I'm saying? But it's like he went past the line of scrimmage.
Tried to jump back.
I've never seen a quarterback do that. I've never seen that before in football. In any football, I've never seen a quarterback do that. Jump back behind the line of scrimmage and throw the football. Then now it's 4th and 30, whatever. So it was definitely a crazy ending, man. But like you said, man, the Milroe miracle. They got the job done. They see Georgia in the SEC championship. But yeah, definitely game ball. Like I said, I don't know about Heisman, but Jalen Milroe, you can definitely have the game ball. But DP, that wraps up another action-packed Monday, man. And I want to end this thing by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in. I want you to like, subscribe, comment, man. Comment on any part, whether you liked it or you didn't like it. Let's have the conversation, man. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at DTalentCode. That is Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL, man. Like we always like to say, man, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays. You know that we will have Rookie Report, NFL game balls on tomorrow. What have we learned? All the different things and how it's going to impact the draft after week 13, 12, 13 of the NFL season. So we have all that on tomorrow's show. Listen, as Keith said, talk to us because we do talk back. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.